behind a desperate situation in Gaza, from which many cannot escape. Nick Beake, BBC News, Jerusalem.
Well, let's get the latest on the humanitarian situation in Gaza. Joining me from Amman is Tamara Alrifai, the Director of External Relations and Communications at UNRWA, the UN agency that helps those in Gaza in this situation right now. Welcome to you. What is the latest you're hearing from your colleagues on the ground in Gaza? Apologies, we've just lost the line to Amman with Tamara. We will try and get that back and bring it to you. In fact, we have got her now. Difficulties with some communications this morning. Let's go back to Tamara now. Alrifai, Director of External Communications for UNRWA. Thank you very much for bearing with us. We just had a little dropout in the line. Tamara, tell us the latest situation that you're hearing from colleagues on the ground in Gaza.
Extremely difficult situation for almost everyone in Gaza, especially that of the total 2.2 million people who live in Gaza, around 80% of them are displaced. So they're no longer in their homes. They're either in shelters that belong to UNRWA, the UN Agency for Palestine Refugees, or they are with their extended families. For most, it's been a very painful displacement, especially from the north of the Gaza Strip to the south. The shelters are overcrowded, which has sparked the beginning of various diseases related either to overcrowding, such as acute respiratory illnesses, or to skin diseases because of lack of adequate hygiene and lack of access to water, or gastric diseases because people indeed are drinking contaminated water that is not fit for human consumption. All this within a framework of near collapse of the health system in hospitals and in primary health centers, except for the 9 health centers that UNRWA still runs and receives patients in.
It is absolutely a dire situation. There was a delivery of fuel yesterday, we understand. Tell us about what impact that's making and what your expectations are around aid, more aid coming in.
So luckily, fuel started to come into Gaza after many weeks of a total no on fuel. However, regretfully, the quantities of fuel that UNRWA is receiving will cover half of what we need in order to run our distribution, so our trucks that distribute food into the shelters, 97 shelters that we run. We also need the fuel for generating electricity through generators that then power the shelters and give them a bit of light so that they're not in total darkness. We also need this fuel to power water desalination and pumping plants so that we can give people clean drinking water to avoid the gastric and other illnesses. With the fuel we're receiving is half the quantity that we need. The aid we're receiving, the trucks are way below what we need, an average of 50 or 60 trucks per day, when the minimum we need is 500 trucks. It should be a combination of humanitarian and commercial supplies so that the groceries, the supermarkets, the private sector in Gaza is also replenished.
Tamara, let me just ask you briefly about where this aid needs to come from, because it's coming via the Rafah crossing, which is in Egypt, isn't it? The crossing between Gaza and Egypt. So what's the hold-up? Is it around what Egypt will allow through Israel?
The holdup is that the Rafah crossing, which is the only one allowed right now to be used, does not have the capacity to accommodate a high number of trucks. What UNRWA is calling for is the opening of other crossings that have more logistical and verification capacity, including inside Israel, such as Kerem Shalom, which is the largest with the largest capacity to get trucks in.
OK. Tamara, thank you very much for updating us there from Amman.